Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We'll begin our class with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swavadan Vande Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानो सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So welcome everyone. We are uh, having a overview of the third canto. So last time we discussed till 16th chapter. So in the 16th chapter, Brahma, he is telling all the devatas the history of Jai and Vijay, how they were cursed by the four Kumaras and they appeared as the son of Diti. So after hearing about Brahmaji, about these sons of Diti being the Jai, being the two doorkeepers, Jai Vijay, so all the devatas, they were pacified and they went back to their abode. And as soon as these two powerful personalities took birth, so many inauspicious omens, natural disturbances appeared in the sky, and on the earth. Natural disasters started. There was fire, earthquakes everywhere. Meteors were falling. The winds were blowing. Clouds were, showering. Very torrents of rains. Thunderbolts were showering from the sky. So many things started happening. The eclipses started happening, and the jackals and the all the other animals started howling. So immediately, these two brothers, they grew and they become as big as the mountain, and they assumed huge sizes. And Kashyapa Muni, he gave them the names Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. So Hiranyakashipu, he was the elder one, although he entered the womb first and he came out later. But according to the Vedic calculation, the soul which enters the womb first is considered as the elder. So when one who comes out later is considered as the elder because he entered first. So Hiranyakashipu, he also started traveling all over the world, all over the universe, and started terrorizing the entire universe. And Hiranyaksha, he was a very, very obedient brother of Hiranyakashipu. He also went around and started conquering all the planets. And because he was very, very powerful, he had also received benedictions from Brahmaji. So this Hiranyaksha, he even terrorized devatas. All the devatas, they fled out of fear of Hiranyaksha. And when Hiranyaksha, he saw all these devatas running away, he started laughing. So he went and conquered the heaven, and then he wanted to fight. So he dove into the ocean to conquer the lower regions. All the aquatics, they ran away out of fear of Hiranyaksha. Then he went to this place of Varuna. The kingdom of Varuna is called as Vibhavari. So he entered Vibhavari and he challenged Varunadev for fighting. So he made a fun of Varunadev. He said, "Oh, king, please give me a fight," because that time Varunadev was very old and he was not in a condition to fight. So he just made a fun of Varunadev by telling that, "Oh king, please give me a nice fight." So Varunadev, he controlled his anger. He didn't become angry, and he said, "Oh fool, I have grown old and weak and I cannot fight with you. And if you want to fight, surely only the Supreme Personality will satisfy your desire to fight. And he has appeared in the ocean. So he will kill you in the battle." So as soon as he heard this, Hiranyaksha, instead of becoming fearful, he became very happy. And he entered the Garbhodak ocean. And this Hiranyaksha was very, very proud of his power and strength. So although this Varunadev, he gave all the warnings that you will be killed by the Supreme Lord, he didn't hear. And he entered this Garbhodak ocean, and there he found Lord Varahadev, trying to take out Mother Earth out of the water. And as soon as he saw Varahadev, he started giving all abusive words, criticizing the Supreme Lord. So it happens in the scriptures, many places it comes in Bhagavatam that whenever a demon is criticizing the Supreme Lord, the acharyas, they give such wonderful commentary that it becomes the glorification of the Lord. That's how Saraswati, Mother Saraswati, never ever allows anyone to criticize the Lord. She, she makes that demon speak such words, which can mean glorification of the Lord also. So this Hiranyaksha said, "Oh, you are Vanagochara." Vanagochara means you are the resident of the forest or water. So actually it means, yes, it means he is resident of, Garbhodak ocean. He is Narayan who lies on the water. So that is the meaning of Vanagochara. Another meaning of Vanagochara is who can be seen only by people who are roaming around in forest. That means he can be seen only by the sages and devotees, not by everyone else. He says, you are like an animal, mriga. You are like an animal. He says, mriga means, the actual meaning of mriga means one who is sought after by the great sages. You are a fool. He says, you are a fool. He says, yes, Chakravarti Thakur says, you know what Agya means? It means there is nothing which is remaining to be known by the Lord. Hiranyaksha calls him Suradhama. You are the lowest of the Devatas. What actually it means is, he is Sura Dhama. He is a lord of all the Devatas. He is best of the Devatas, So in this way, Hiranyaksha, he spoke such harsh words and abusive words. And actually, Lord was pained by all these abusive words. So Lord is also a person, and whenever somebody glorifies him, he becomes happy. And if somebody criticizes him, he feels pain, because he thinks that the more a living entity criticizes a Supreme Lord, the more he is going down into the hellish situations of life. Is not feeling pained because he is criticized. He is feeling pained because of the future suffering of the living entity. So although Lord felt pain, but because he was holding on to Mother Earth, so he didn't do anything. So demon Hiranyaksha continued. He said, you are reproachable, you are shameless. So actually Chakravarti Thakur says demon is criticizing himself as shameless. So Lord, he placed the earth out of he took the earth out of the water, placed it on the top of Garbhodak ocean, and with his power, he made that Mother Earth, Bhumandala, float. And then he turned towards this demon and he replied very angrily. He laughed. He said, Satyam vayambho vanagocharo mriga yusmad vidhan mrigaye grama simhan. He says, oh fool, Satyam, indeed we are the creatures of the jungle. Indeed we are vanagochara mriga. You know what we are doing here? We are searching for the dogs like you. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that actually vanagochara mriga means Lord is telling we are seen by only by devotees, not by people like you. So Hiranyaksha may say, but why are you showing mercy to me by appearing in front of me? Lord says, because heroes like me are generous. And I will give mercy even to you. Although you are boasting, you are criticizing me, but I have come to give mercy to you also. Hiranyaksha told that, oh, you are like, Vanagochara, you are a forest animal and you have come to steal away the sacrificial offerings. Nyasahara, that which is belonging to the inhabitants of Rasatala. Because Hiranyaksha stole that Bhumandala and put it in the Rasatala, Garbhoda Ocean. So he is telling, oh, you have stolen our property. But Lord says, actually, what does it mean? Lord tells, yes, I am Nyasahara. Nyasahara means I am the receiver of the offerings which is made by devotees, even if they are demons. So Lord is telling you, after all, you are my devotee. You are Jaya Vijay from the spiritual world. So I'll accept your offering also. Then he says, give up your foolish talk and fight with me. And today you will be killed. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that, Lord becomes filled with love for his devotee because Lord knows he is my devotee, Jai Vijay. And he is thinking that you have accepted the mood of demon and therefore you are trying to please me. So the Lord tells that today you will cry because of the pain which I am going to give you. So Lord Chakravarti Thakur says, Lord is saying, just you will cry tears of bliss because you will be pleasing me so much. So then after having this, debate and argument, both started fighting. And like a cobra, this Hiranyaksha sprang at the Lord and hit the Lord with his mace, attacked the Lord. And Lord, he also counteracted with his own mace, and fierce fight started between Hiranyaksha and Varahadev. And both were striking each other. And they were fighting like two bulls fighting for a cow. And as this fight was continuing, it was going on for a long time. Brahmaji, he was becoming afraid. He says, oh my Lord, this demon is offender of living entities, of brahmanas, cows. Please kill him. Please don't play with him. This Abhijit Nakshatra is passing by. And the time of evening is approaching and the demons become powerful in the evening. Please kill him immediately. So when the Lord hears this, he laughs at the prayer of Brahmaji. So that is the 19th chapter now. So in the 19th chapter, the Lord laughed at the prayer of Brahma and he accepted, okay, I'll do the needful. So he took his mace and aimed at the chin of Hiranyaksha. But Hiranyaksha, he also counteracted with his own mace and he hit the mace of the Lord so fiercely that the Lord fell off, the mace fell off the hand of the Lord. All the devatas, they started, crying. Everybody became really, fearful. There was a huge uproar amongst the devatas. When Lord saw this, he became very angry. He invoked his Sudarshan Chakra and he attacked So Hiranyaksha, he threw his mace, and with Sudarshan, the Lord destroyed the mace. And Lord, he waited. He didn't attack. He said, okay, take another weapon. So Hiranyaksha became really ashamed. He took another weapon. He again attacked. Again, Lord destroyed that weapon. So this time Hiranyaksha, he became very angry. He resorted to illusions. He started, displaying all the mystic illusions, and Lord invoked Sudarshan Chakra and destroyed all the illusions. And as all these things are happening, Diti, she experienced lots of pain in her breasts, and blood started coming out of her breasts. So she understood now there is some, calamity which is about to come on my son. So Hiranyaksha, he tried to kill the Lord in various ways. He was thinking, I can kill the Supreme Lord. He tried to squeeze the Lord within his grip, but the Lord disappeared. Then the Supreme Lord, he hit Hiranyaksha at the root of his ears, very gently. He slapped. His entire body began to wheel. His eyes bulged out of his sockets. His arms and legs were broken, hair was scattered, and this demon fell down dead. All the devatas, they started showering flowers. Apsara started dancing, and all the Gandharvas, they were playing their instruments, and everybody was rejoicing on the victory of the Supreme Lord. So Brahma and all the other devatas came and they offered their prayers. And Brahma tells, oh my Lord, this personality, Hiranyaksha, is so very blessed because he is touched by your feet. Even great sages are, doing tapasya for many, many lifetimes. They are not even able to see the tip of your toe. Panthas koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayorapha athapi manaso muni pongavana sopyasti yat prapadasimnya vichinta tatvai govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Sages are not even able to see the tip of the toe. And this personality is touched by the lotus feet. He is getting dust. He's so very blessed. And then he tells, oh my Lord, these two are your associates. So that's how Brahmaji glorifies, and the demigods also glorify, and they went back. So Maitreya Muni, now he continues, he says, now, I have explained to you the pastime of Varahadev as I have heard from my Guru. And Vidura, when he heard this, he felt such happiness. He was really blissful. And then Suta Goswami, he speaks to the sages of Naimisharanya that, what we are doing, we are discussing about the pastimes of the devotee of the Lord, Jai Vijay. Because Krishna Katha is powerful and Vaishnava Katha is also powerful. Shrutasya pumsam shuchira shramasya nanvanjasa suribhiridito arthaha tattadgunano shravanam mukunda padarvindam hridayeshu yesham. Shrutasya pumsam, anybody who hears with great labor from the spiritual master must hear about the pastimes of the devotee of the Lord. Tattadgunano shravanam mukunda. Why? Padarvindam, because they have lotus feet of the Lord in their heart. That is the glory of the devotees. And who will not be here? Who will not hear the glories of the devotee? Who will be that ungrateful person? Only an ungrateful person will not hear about the Lord's devotees. Only an ungrateful person will not worship the Lord. Tam sukharadhyam rijubhi ananya sharaner nibhir pritagya no seveta duraradhyam asadhubi. Duraradhyam, asadhu. Only a sadhu, unrighteous person will not worship the Supreme Lord. So after describing this pastime of Varahadev, Suta Goswami describes the Falastuti. Anybody who hears, chants, and takes pleasure in this narration, will be liberated, will be relieved of sin of killing a Brahmana. Etan mahan punyamalam pavitram dhanyam yashasyam padamayurashisham pranendriyanam yudhi saurya vardhanam narayano ante gatiranga shinvatam. So anybody who hears this pastime of Lord Varaha killing Hiranyaksha, Etan Mahan Punyam, he will attain extraordinary merit. This is a very, very pure, katha, pavitram. He will have extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, dhanyam, yashasam, padam. He will have high position, ayu, he will have very long ayu, ashisham, he will have all the benedictions. And at the end, and one who listens this at the last moment of his life is surely transferred back home to the spiritual world. Narayano ante gatiranga srinvatam. So that's how he describes the pastime of Lord Varahadev. So now again, Shaunakadi rishis, they ask Suta Goswami, what did Swayambhuva Manu do? Because that was the question of Swayambhu, Shaunakadi rishis. Please tell us about the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu. Lineage of, please tell us about the descendants of Brahmaji, and we have heard about Swayambhuva Manu and the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu. So Suta Goswami, he describes some things, and then again Shaunakadi Rishi asks, what did Swayambhuva Manu do after he got the earth back? And how Swayambhuva Manu showed the path of liberation to all the living entities? And Vidura must have inquired something more from Maitreya. Please tell us about that. There must have been Hari Katha. They are very, very eager. There must have been Hari Katha. They must have asked something more. Please narrate all. Kanat kirtaya bhadramte kirtanayodara karmana rasagya konu tripyeta hari leelamritam piban. Who can be satisfied hearing the nectar of Hari Katha? Rasagya kona tripyeta. Anybody who has relished the nectar of Hari Katha once and who knows, who has the taste of Hari Katha, how can he be satisfied? Please tell us about the pastimes which happened after this. So Suta Goswami, he continues. He tells that Vidura also inquired about the same thing. And Vidura, he inquired about the creation of Brahmaji to Maitreya. He says, "O great sage, what did Brahma do to create living beings?" Because that was the order given to him by the Supreme Lord. Please procreate and fill this entire universe with living entities. So Vidura is asking again, how did Brahma, do this creation? And involving the Prajapatis, and how did these Prajapatis like Marichi, Swayambhuva Manu, how did they procreate? Did the Prajapatis create in conjunction with their wives, or they did it independently, or they did it jointly? How did they produce this, all the living entities? Please tell us about that. So in answer to this question, about this is a secondary creation, the creation by Brahmaji and all the further descendants of Brahmaji. So Maitreya Muni, to reach secondary creation, first he describes the primary creation. So he describes again the primary creation which we have heard in the second canto, starting from Pradhana, Mahatattva, then creation of the elements, and then formation of the universal shell, then Lord glancing over it and sending the cohesive energy, Bibhrat Shakti, Lord entering into the universe as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and then Brahmaji was born. So this is all Maitreya Muni describes in summary. And then he describes that after Brahmaji took birth from the navel of Lord Vishnu, he started doing the creation. First thing which he created was 5 types of ignorance. So 5 types of ignorance was created by Brahmaji, because unless a living entity forgets his original position as the son of the Lord, as the part and parcel of the Lord, they cannot enjoy in this world. So Brahmaji created 5 types of ignorance, and now when he created this ignorance, he became very disgusted with it. Oh, what type of creation I have made. All the living entities, they will suffer because of this ignorance. So he became very, very upset, and out of disgust, he gave up that mentality. Bhagavatam says he gave up that body. That means he gave that mentality of ignorance. And this ignorance became night, turned into night. And then Brahmaji, he continued his creation. He created yakshas and rakshasas. And these yakshas and rakshasas, they accepted this night. Then he created devatas, and they accepted the day. And then Brahmaji created more demons from his buttocks. So these demons, they were so lusty that they started chasing Brahmaji for sex. So Brahma, he tried to, give them good advice, but they didn't listen. So Brahma had to run away. And he took shelter of the Lord. He prayed to the Lord. And Lord, he appeared and said, "Oh Brahma, please cast off this impure body." So Brahma, he gave up that, impure body, means he gave up that mentality again. He gave up the subtle body, which was, full of passion. And these demons, they considered this, body as a twilight, subtle body, and they accepted this as twilight, this twilight as a beautiful lady. And they are glorifying that beauty of that lady in the form of twilight. Then Brahmaji created Bhuta, Pishachas, and all the other personalities, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Kinnara, Vidyadhara, everything, all the other personalities created from the various parts of Brahmaji's body. And he created all the sages also. So after hearing all this creation, Vidura, he inquires more. So first Vidura asked about the secondary creation. How did Brahma create? Okay, so now Maitreya described that. Now Vidura is asking another question. Please tell us about the glorious dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu. How did Priyavrat and Uttanpad protect the earth? Please describe the dynasty of the daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. And we have heard that Devahuti, she gave birth to the Supreme Lord. Please describe more about that. We want to hear about the dynasty of Devahuti. How many offsprings did she produce? And how did Ruchi, another daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Ruchi, how did Ruchi and Daksha begot children? So all these things, Vidura asks Maitreya. So Maitreya, he first describes about the first daughter, actually the middle daughter, that is Devahuti, because she is famous as the personality who gave birth to the incarnation of the Lord, that is Kapila Dev. So Maitreya, he continues the story. He says, Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, the sages created by Brahmaji, he was engaged in austerities as per the order of Brahma. Because Brahma, he gave order to all these Prajapatis that you please procreate. But to procreate, you have to first become purified in consciousness. That is Garbhadhan Samskar. To procreate, the couple should be in purified consciousness so that they can attract a nice devotee soul. So Kardam Muni, he was doing tapasya for 10,000 years. And in this way, he was trying to please the Supreme Lord. So Lord, he appeared in front of Kartam Muni, and beautiful description of the body of the Lord and the ornaments and the jewelry which he was wearing, the cloth. It is described. Kiritinam kundalinam shankachakra gadadharam shvetotpala kridanakam manasparsha smitekshanam. He was having a crown, earrings. He was having a beautiful garland, vanamala. He was having shankachakra gada padma in his hands. He was looking very, very beautiful. And he was casting very loving, affectionate glances on Kardamuni. He was smiling. Chandrika Vishada Smerai Saruna Panga Vikshitai Swakarthanami Varajaha Satvabhyam Srishtipalakai. Lord, when he glances on his devotees, by his glance, he creates the desire of service. And when Lord smiles, that smile can destroy the suffering of all the living entities. So Supreme Lord appeared in front of Kardam Muni. He had Srivatsa, Kaustuba Mala, and all the other ornaments. He stood in air. He didn't come down. He was, standing on Garuda with his feet on the shoulders of Garuda. And Kardam Muni, as soon as he saw the beautiful form of the Lord, he became so joyful. He offered full obeisances and he started offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. He says, "Oh my Lord, perfection of eye is to see you. And although only a less intelligent person will desire something other than, having you, oh my Lord, but he says, I am like those less intelligent people. I worshipped you because I want a suitable girl to marry." So he says, Chakravarti Thakur, so Lord may say, so why don't you worship me without material desires? So Kardamani says, actually, I am bound by the instructions of Brahmaji. But Brahmaji has given instructions to me that you procreate. That's why I'm worshipping you. And he says, Brahmaji is not at fault. He is following your instructions. It is your order to Brahma, and Brahmaji is giving his order to me. So therefore, I am just following the instructions of the Supreme Lord. I am just following your instructions. So Kardam Muni, he was not, trying to marry a girl for sense enjoyment, because it will be evident that Kardam Muni, he, as soon as he got children, he departed from, departed for the forest. So he was not interested in sense gratification. He was interested in service. So a devotee may circumstantially engage in some material desires, material activities, but those material activities are ultimately for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, for the service of the Supreme Lord. So Lord, when he hears this, that, oh, I am doing it as an order of Brahma, so Lord may say that, why are you criticizing others with material desires? What is their fault? So Kardamuni speaks a very, very beautiful verse. He says, these people, they are like animals. They will never get liberated. But a person who is surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he will be liberated. Lokam shalokanu pashumsha hitva shritashe charanat patram parasparam tvad gunavad sidu piyusha nirya pitateha dharmaha lokamsha lokanugatam pashumsha. People who are like animals and those who are the followers of these beastly people, hitva shritaste, they have given up your lotus feet, which are like umbrella. In the scorching heat of the material world, this umbrella, soothing umbrella of your lotus feet can protect one. Hitva sritaste charanat patram. But these foolish, unfortunate people, they have given up your lotus feet. What they have given up? Parasparam tvad gunavada sidhu. They have given up the nectarine pastimes of your name, form, and so many qualities. They have given up all these descriptions, and they are drinking all the other wrong things. But a person, who gives up all the other things and takes shelter of the lotus feet of you, O my Lord, drinking the nectar of Harikatha, Nirya Piyush Niryapit Deh Dharma, they will be surely free from the bodily identifications. So the devotees of the Lord who are surrendered souls, they will never get entangled. Time can never affect such devotees. Ayuraharti vai pumsam udyam astancha yannasau tasyarte yashanau nitau uttama shloka vartaya. The devotees are not affected by rising and setting of the sun. They are coming closer to the eternal life. So hearing the prayers of Kardam Muni, Lord becomes very happy, and he speaks to Kardama. He says, "O Kardama, whatever you have desired is already granted to you." This is how Lord reciprocates to his devotees. So we should not think whether we will be awarded, whatever we are working for. We are working for getting love of God. Will we be awarded? Lord is waiting to award us devotional service. Just like it comes in the pastime of kidnapping of Rukmini. As soon as Rukmini was kidnapped and all the kings, they were chasing after Krishna, Rukmini was becoming really fearful. She was a small girl, and her eyes became really fearful. So Krishna says, Rukmini, please don't fear. Ma bhai isma vamalochane vinangshatva adhunaivetat tavakai shastravam balam. Don't worry, in due course, very shortly, your army will destroy the army of the enemies. He has not even married Rukmini, but still he is telling, your army will destroy the enemy. So Lord is ready to give all his opulences to his devotees. He is waiting to grant all the benedictions. So so Lord tells Kardama that whatever you have desired is already granted. Don't worry, because desires of people like you are never frustrated. So devotees are never frustrated in their desires. Even their material desires are fulfilled by them. So that's what the Lord is telling, that your desires are already fulfilled. He says that day after tomorrow, Swayambhu Manu, who is ruling this entire Bhumandal, he'll come with his beautiful daughter. He'll come with his wife and daughter. And his daughter, she is a grown-up and she is of marriageable age. She is the ornament of the womanhood. She is most qualified, and she is the perfect match which you are looking for. And Swayambhu Manu will hand over his daughter to you, and she will beget 9 daughters from you. And then he says, don't worry. After giving children and after doing your services, your heart, it will always be clean. Don't think that you will be entangled in family life because you have heard my instructions, and because you will carry my instructions properly, your heart will become cleansed and you will attain me finally. So even though a devotee may apparently engage in all the household activities, taking care of the family and job and relatives and so many things, and it may look that a devotee is practically like a materialist working. But Lord is giving assurance to all the devotees that if we keep carrying out the instructions of the Lord, then for sure in the end we will attain him. And then he tells, I shall manifest my own plenary portion through Devahuti along with your 9 daughters. And after giving all these assurances, Lord departed. And Kardama, he was very, very happy and he was waiting. So day after tomorrow, and as predicted by the Supreme Lord, Swayambhu Manu comes along with Shatarupa, and he offers his respects to Kardamuni. Kardamuni, he was looking like an unpolished diamond. Because he was practically doing austerity for many, many thousands of years. So he was not cleansed properly, but the effulgence of Kardamuni, it was permeating the entire atmosphere, entire place. So Swayambhu Manu, he immediately offered his respects. He bowed down, and Kardamuni also bowed down in reciprocation. Kardamuni glorifies Swayambhu Manu. He says, "O great king, you are protecting the entire Bhumandala. You are making all the arrangements so that people can approach the Supreme Lord. So please tell me, how can I serve you? Why have you come here?" So when Swayambhu Manu, he was so Kardamuni, when he spoke like this, Swayambhu Manu, he felt actually ashamed hearing his glories. In response, he glorifies Kardamuni. Very, very interesting thing, Swayambhu Manu speaks. So Kardamuni, he had set such high standards for a king to follow. He had told that Swayambhu Manu, you are ruling this world very nicely. You are practicing devotional service. You are establishing dharma. Swayambhu Manu says, "Oh great sage, thank you for reminding me of my duties." So that is how we should reciprocate when somebody glorifies us. Thank you for reminding me what I am supposed to do. And then in return, Swayambhu Manu glorifies Kardamuni. So we can see such wonderful relationship between householders and the renounced order. So he says, just by meeting you, all my doubts are resolved. Just because I have met you, I have obtained such great fortune, because it is so very rare to see great personalities. So he says that because I have received instructions from you, I have touched my head at your lotus feet, I have become most fortunate. So then after glorifying Kardamuni, Swayambhu Manu, he offers his daughter Devahuti. He says, so please accept my daughter Devahuti. She is the sister of Uttanapad and Priyavrata. That means she is coming from a great family. Uttanapad and Priyavrata both were very, very powerful personalities known all over the universe. And then he says that actually she is also looking for a suitable husband. And he says that not only that, she had heard about you from Narada Muni. And since then, she has focused her mind on you. That is the same thing which happened with Rukmini also. She had just heard about Krishna from the sages. So pashrutya mukundasya rupa virya gunashriya grihagatam giyamanai tammene sadrishimpati. So she had heard about Krishna, Rupa, Guna, Virya, Shriya, and she decided, oh, I'll marry only Krishna. So Devahuti had also heard about Kardamuni from Narada. So she had also decided. And then he tells, look, you have also not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy, right? So you have also decided to get married. So Kardam Muni may ask, how did you know that I want to get married? I want to get married. How did you know? So Swayambhu tells, actually the Lord himself told me. Just like Lord appeared in front of you, Lord told me also that you have made your mind to marry. So therefore, please accept my daughter. So Kardam Muni, when he hears all this, he tells, yes, I will marry her because she has not given word to anyone else. And who can reject her? She is the ornament of womanhood. And even I have heard that Vishwavasu, the great Gandharva, one time when he saw Devahuti playing with the ball on the terrace of the palace, he fell down from his airplane. So actually Devahuti was very, very beautiful. But then he says there is one condition. I am not going to stay with her whole life. As soon as I give sons or children, I will depart. I'll just wait till the time she, produces offspring. And then after that, I'll depart for the forest. Hearing this, Kardam Muni Swayambhu Manu may say, but your father's order was procreation, not renunciation, right? Why are you renouncing? Kardam Muni, expecting this, he says, I follow the highest authority. The highest authority for me is Supreme Lord, not Brahmaji. I want to perfect my life. I want to follow the orders of Supreme Lord. And Supreme Lord wants all the living entities to realize him. So therefore, I'll leave family. I'll leave Devahuti. So Devahuti, she was also such a great, lady. Just see, this is how the ladies of the Vedic times were. This Devahuti, she was born and brought up in opulence, and she is ready to go and marry an ordinary sage staying in forest. And she had made up her mind. She was captivated by the glory and the quality of Kardam Muni. And when Kardam Muni, he spoke this, after speaking all that, he became silent and there was a smile on his face. Kardam Muni was captivated by the smile on the face of Devahuti was captivated by the smile on the face of Kardama Muni. Prabhupada writes in the purport, that is the influence of a pure devotee of the Lord. He can attract anyone just by his smile. And that is what Prabhupada himself did. So many of the people, they would just be attracted, seeing Prabhupada's smile, Prabhupada's words. One time Prabhupada went, some reporters came to take interview of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was eating oranges. And there's a dustbin kept a little distance away. So Prabhupada, as he was speaking to the newspaper reporters, he was throwing the seeds in the dustbin, and the seed was going right in the dustbin. So one of them reporter, he was really impressed by this, and he was just looking at this. Prabhupada, spitting the seed, and it was going in the dustbin. He became so impressed that he came after a few days again, and he started coming regularly. He also became devotee. So Prabhupada writes, a Krishna conscious person is so attractive. Simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers just by smiles. So Devahuti was completely attracted to Kardam Muni. And then Shatrupa and Swayambhu Manu, they also agreed to this proposal. They married Kardam Muni and Devahuti. Shatrupa gave lots of jewelry and gift and cloths to Devahuti. And with great feelings of separation, Swayambhu Manu and Shatrupa, they departed. the life of Swayambhu Manu is described by Maitreya. And that's why Vidura wanted to hear about Swayambhu Manu. He was not a materialistic king. Charitam tasya rajarsher tavara adi rajasya sattama. Oh Maitreya, please describe about Swayambhu Manu adi rajasya, because Vishwaksena ashrayo he asau. He has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord. So although Swayambhu Manu, he was emperor of entire Bhumandal and he was living a life of royalty, but he was not degraded by material enjoyment. Why? Because he was absorbed in hearing, contemplating, writing, and chanting about the Lord's pastimes. So in this way, he passed his time of 71 yuga cycles. So he was the Manu for first Manvantara, 71 yuga cycles. So he passed his life of 71 yuga cycles thinking of Vasudeva, and he practically transcended the material miseries. So then after Devahuti got married and Swayambhu Manu and Shatrupa left, Devahuti, she started serving Kardam Muni very, very nicely. Pitribhyam prasthite sadhvi patim ingita kovida nityam paricharayat pritya bhavani va bhavam prabhum. Sadhvi, she was a very chaste lady, just like Durga would serve Lord Shiva. Devahuti was serving Kardam Muni like Bhavani. Patim ingit kovida. Very, very interesting line. She knew the desires of her husband. She could understand. Kardam Muni didn't have to tell her anything. So Maitreya Muni is now describing the quality of Devahuti. So how she served her husband. Vishrambhena atma sauchena gauravena damena cha shushrushaya sauridena vacha madhuraya cha bho. Vishrambhena atma sauchena. She served Kardam Muni with great respect, cleanliness of the body, cleanliness of the mind, and very intimately she was serving, but with respect. This combination is very difficult. Intimacy and respect. Many times when we become intimate with somebody, we lose respect. Familiarity breeds contempt. But she was serving so intimately with all the respect. Because when you come close to someone, you know the faults, you know the mistakes of that person. Devotee maintained all the respect. Visrijya kamam dambham cha dvesham lobham agham madam. Visrijya, she gave up all lust, pride, greed, envy, sinful activity, everything. Apramadotya nityam tejiyasam. And in this way, working very sanely and diligently, she pleased her very, very powerful husband. In this way, she served Kardam Muni for a long time. Because she didn't take care of her body, she became very weak and emaciated. That royal princess was staying in palace, being served by thousands of maid servants. Here she was serving a sage in the forest, not taking care of the body, just absorbed in serving. So she became very weak and emaciated. And after a long time of service, Kardam Muni, one day, he recognized, because he would be absorbed with his eyes closed in meditation. Somehow one day he recognized, and he told Devahuti, I am very, very pleased with you for your service. You have served me without taking care of your body, which is very, very dear to everyone. So I shall offer all the blessings which I have achieved by service of the Supreme Lord, and I'll give you fearlessness. So Devotee, when she heard this, she was very, very satisfied, and with a gentle smile and bashful face, she replied. She said, "Then you have given word to my father that you'll give me a child. It is a desire for every woman to get children. So please give me children. And this body, it is very emaciated, and I cannot unite with you in this body. So please make arrangements so that I can regain my proper body." So Kardamuni, he was not an ordinary sage. Tejiyasam atoshaya. She knew that her husband is very, very powerful sage. He created an entire airplane. It was not just an ordinary airplane, it was a mansion. It was flying in the air. And it was full of all the facilities. But Devotee still was not happy. And Kardamuni could understand why. Then Kardamuni told Devotee, "Devotee, please go and take bath in Bindu Sarovar and come." So Devotee, as she entered this Bindu Sarovar, she saw 1,000 Vidyadhara girls waiting for her. And they gave her nice bath and nice ornaments and clothes, and gave her nice refreshing drinks and nourishing food. And she regained her original beauty, and she saw herself in the mirror. And as she was seeing herself, she remembered her husband. Immediately she was transported to the place where the Kardamuni was there. So Kardamuni and Devahuti, along with 1,000 Vidyadhara girls, they all board the airplane. And Kardamuni took her to all the wonderful places all over the universe. He went to all the heavenly gardens. He went to Mount Meru, everywhere, and all the devatas. They were also shocked seeing the opulence of Kardamuni and opulence of this celestial plane. So Maitreya Muni, he tells, it is not astonishing. A devotee of the Lord can do anything. Kim durapadanam tesham pumsam uddam chetasam yaira ashritas tirthapado charano vyasanatyayah. Kim durapadanam tesham. What is difficult for a person who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's lotus feet? He can achieve anything of this world. So Kardamuni, he became such powerful because he was a devotee of the Lord. So after enjoying with Devahuti for hundreds of years, so Kardamuni, he divided into 9 parts and united with Devahuti and gave birth to 9 daughters immediately. And as soon as the daughters were born, so as per the promise given to Swayambhu Manu, Kardamuni was departing. So as Devahuti, she saw her husband leaving, she became very sad, and she spoke with tears in her eyes. She said, "Oh my Lord, you have not fulfilled your promise. You have not given me fearlessness." So indirectly, she was requesting that if you go away, how will I survive in this forest? So please give me a son who will take care of me, who will take me out of this fear of material world and will give me spiritual knowledge also. She says, I have spent so much of the time, but I could not cultivate spiritual knowledge. So please, help me. I didn't know your glory, and I just united with you, associated with you for material benefits. But please please bestow fearlessness. Sangoya samsrite hetu asatsu vihito dhiya saeva sadhushu krito nisangatvaya kalpate. The amount of attachment a person has for material things of the world, Sangoya samsrite. Samsriti means this material world. The amount of attachment which one has for the material world, if somebody, you know, gives the, just puts that attachment in association of devotees, he'll be liberated. That is the power of association. We have to attach to someone. Better to be attached to the devotee association. Saeva sadhushu krito nisangatvaya kalpate. When we are attached to the devotees, we'll be liberated. That's what Narad Muni tells. One of the quality which Narad Muni as a small boy, he says, Tasyaiva me anuraktasya prashritasya hatainashah shraddhanasya balasya dantasya anucharasya cha. I was anurakta, I was attached to devotees. The devotee tells the same thing in the next chapter also, in the 25th chapter. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu saiva sadhushkrito mokshadwaram pavritam. And then she says, what is the use of practicing fruitive activities if those fruitive activities don't take one to dharma? If your karma doesn't lead to dharma, if your dharma doesn't lead to renunciation, if your renunciation doesn't lead to devotional service, it is all futile. Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirtha pada sevaya jivan napi mritopi. So it is all waste. So please help me, because I am cheated by material nature. Saham bhagavata nunam vanchita mayaya dridham yatvam vimuktidam prapya nam mukshe bandhanat. I am royally cheated by material nature. Maya has cheated me. I got your association. Yastvam vimuktidam. I could have achieved liberation, but I could not take advantage of it. So please help me. So Kardamuni, when he heard the prayers of Devahuti, he remembered the words of Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord had told Kardam, I will appear as your son. So this is the 24th chapter now. So Kardamuni remembered the words of Lord Vishnu, and he told, O Devahuti, please don't be disappointed. Worship the Supreme Lord, and he will appear in your womb as your son. And he told her the process of worshipping the Supreme Lord. And he said, Supreme Lord will cut off your knots of material entanglement and he will deliver you. So Devahuti, he worshipped the Lord for many, many years. And then Lord appeared through the semen of Kashyapa in the womb, through the semen of Kardama. He appeared in the womb of Devahuti. And as he appeared in the womb of Devahuti, Brahmaji and all the Devatas, Apsaras, Gandharvas, they all appeared and they glorified the Lord who is in the womb of Devahuti. Brahmaji, he told Kardama that, O Kardama, I am very pleased with you because you have followed my instructions. And this is how a son or a teacher or a disciple should behave. Whenever an instruction is given to a disciple, he should say, yes, sir. Badham iti, yes, sir. He should never say no. So that is what Brahmaji, he tells, he congratulates. And then he tells Devahuti, O Devahuti, Supreme Lord is in your womb. He will cut off all your material entanglements. And he describes the glories of Lord Kapila. Ayam siddha ganadhishaha sankhyacharyasu sammataha loke kapila ityakhyatam ganta te kirtivardhana. This personality who is in your womb, he is Siddha Gana Adhisha. He is the head of all the liberated souls. He will propound the philosophy of Sankhya, Sankhya-charya, and he will be known as Kapila, and he will increase your glory. So after this, Brahmaji departed, and Kardamuni, he offered his 9 daughters to 9 sages, and they continued the creation. And then in due course of time, Lord appeared in as Kapila Dev. So Kardamuni, he approached Kapila and he offered beautiful prayers. He says, "Oh my Lord, you have appeared to increase the pride of your devotees. He says, you have come to increase the honor of your devotees." And after glorifying the Lord, he says, "Oh my Lord, please give me permission. I want to renounce this family life." So Lord gave all the blessings to Kardamuni, and Kardamuni departed for the forest. He accepted Mauna Vrata. He fixed his mind on the Supreme Lord and became free from ego, and ultimately he was liberated and he attained the path to perfection. So after this, from 25th chapter onwards, the famous teachings of Lord Kapila starts. So Shaunak Rishi, when he heard all that, so he asks, "Please describe the activities of Kapila Dev." So Suta Goswami, he says, "Are Vidura also asked the same question to Maitreya?" No, that's what we have seen many times in Bhagavatam. The speakers and the hearers of Bhagavatam, they are always in sync. Maitreya, Vidura, Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, Shaunakadi Rishis, Suta Goswami. They are all in sync. At the end of the second canto, when Parikshit Maharaj tells, Shukdev Goswami, I'll tell you about Padma Kalpa. So the sages of Naimisharanya, they say, no, please don't tell that now. Please tell us about the pastime of Vidura. He went to the forest, leaving his family. Please tell us about that. Where all he went, which all holy places he went, why he left his family. So Suta Goswami says, Are Parikshit Maharaj also asked the same thing to Shukdev Goswami. Here also again the same thing is happening. Shaunakadi Rishis, they ask Suta Goswami, please tell us about the activities of Kapila. So Vidura tells, Suta Goswami tells, Vidura asked the same question to Maitreya. So it was not planned like that. It was spontaneous question of Shaunakadi Rishis. So Suta Goswami, he continues. He says, after Kardamuni left, Devotee, one day she remembered the words of Kardama and she remembered the words of Brahmaji. So Brahmaji had told Devotee that this son of yours who is in your womb, he is a Supreme Lord. He will deliver you from this material entanglement. So Devotee, she approaches her glorious son and she speaks. Nirvinna nitaram bhuman asat indriya tarshanat yena sambhavya manena prapannandham tamah prabho. Nirvinna, I am disgusted with this material world. I am disgusted with this material existence of my Lord. Nirvinna nitaram bhuman asat indriya tarshanat. The desire to enjoy is so strong. Asat indriya tarshanat. I am really disturbed by this. And so I am surrendering unto you. Prapanna, I am surrendering unto you. Please take me out of this ignorance. Kulakshekar Maharaj also prays similarly. Andasya merita vivek mahadhanasya chaurei prabho bali virindriya namadheyah mohanda kupa kuhare vinipati tasya deveshu dehi kripanasya karavalambam. Oh my Lord, I am fallen in this deep dark well of material world. Andasya may I become blinded because my intelligence, my discrimination is stolen away by these thieves known as my senses. Chaurei Prabho Bali Virindriya Namadheyah. please take me out of this. So she says, oh my Lord, you are my transcendental eye, you are Sat Chakshu. After many, many births, I have obtained your mercy. Please show mercy. Please take me out of this material existence. Please dispel my illusion. This conception of me and mine, it is troubling me so much. And she says, actually, it is your Maya alone that has bewildered me. So please take me out of this. I have to ask you only because it is your Maya. Tam tvagataham sharanam sharanyam swabhritya samsara taro kutharam jigyasyayaham prakrite purushasya pricha namami saddharma vidam varishtham. So she's offering beautiful prayers. Tam tvagataham sharanam sharanyam. You are the only person who is worth taking shelter. Swabhritya, anybody who takes your shelter. Samsara taro kutharam, you are the axe with which I will cut off this tree of material existence. Jigyasyayaham prakrite purushasya. Oh my Lord, I want to know about the interactions of Jiva and Prakriti. Namami Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. I offer my obeisances unto you. You are Vidam Varishtam. You are the greatest of all transcendentalists. So therefore, she is asking, please explain the condition of Jiva in this material world. So Kapila Dev, in response to this prayer, he describes about the interactions of Purusha and Prakriti in the 26th chapter. First from 3rd to 8 verses, he explains the interaction between Jiva and Prakriti. And then Devotee, he asks to elaborate on this topic in the 9th verse. So Kapila Dev, he elaborates in 26th chapter and 27th chapter. 2 chapters he elaborates. So when Kapila, he heard this, Maitreya says, when Kapila heard this uncontaminated desire of his mother, he was really happy and he thanked her mentally. So Niravadyam iti swamatum niravadyam ipsitam nishamya pumsam apavarga vardhanam dhiyabhinandyat matavatam satam gati vabhash ishat smitashobhitatmanaha. Niravadya, it was the uncontaminated desire. Why? Because it was for transcendental realization. And he thanked her because this question will help all the living entities. So therefore, he smiled and he started explaining. He says, Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam Mato Nishreyasaya me Atyanta Uparatiryasya Dukkhasya cha Sukhasya cha. O my mother, I will explain to you this Adhyatmika Yoga. I will tell you this yoga system concerning the soul. Mato Nishreyasaya me. Because this is the most beneficial yoga. When you hear this, what will happen? Atyanta uparati, it will create complete detachment from sukhasya cha dukhasya cha. From happiness and distress, you will be detached. So this adhyatmic yoga is of 3 types: bhakti, jnana, and ashtanga. So out of these 3, Kapila Dev first proposes the best of the 3, that is bhakti yoga. Tamimam te pravakshyami yam avocham puranaghe rishinam shrotukamanam yogam sarvanganaipunam. I will explain you the best of all, which is sarvanganaipunam, which is serviceable and practical. the easiest, So easiest I will tell you. What is that? Bhakti yoga. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. This is susukham kartum abhyam. This is sulabha. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha. So this process of bhakti is very, very easy. And then he says, in this process of bhakti, mind is the pivot. A person who has controlled mind, the mind becomes the best friend. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. So therefore, when the mind is cleansed of all the contaminations, then one can transcend the material happiness and distress. How to reach this stage? When the mind is controlled, jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yuktena chatmana paripashyanti udasinam prakritim cha hataujasam. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yuktena. By practicing devotional service, which is endowed with Gyan and Vairagya. Whenever we practice bhakti, naturally renunciation comes, naturally knowledge comes, and then you can see things as they are. And therefore, he says, mind which is attached to the Lord leads to liberation. And the best process is to attach the mind to the Lord is practicing of bhakti. So what is this bhakti? So first he glorifies the bhakti. Na yujyamanaya bhaktya bhagavati akilatmani sadrisho asti shiva pantha yoginam brahma siddhaye. Na sadrisho asti shivaha. O mother, there is no auspicious path than practice of devotional service. Bhakti is the only auspicious path. Yujyamanaya bhaktya. That the path which is the result which is obtained by bhakti cannot be attained by any other paths. Shukdev Goswami tells the same thing to Parikshit Maharaj in the second canto. Nahi ato anya shiva pantha vishata samshrita viha vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yogo yato bhavet. There is no better path than this practice of devotional service. This is the best. The question may come, how does one get bhakti? Simple, by associating with devotees. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanam kavayo vidu saiva sadhu shukrito moksha dwaram apavritam. Prasangam ajaram pasham, the pasha, the rope of attachment to material world and material existence is so strong, it never becomes old. The desire to enjoy never becomes old. If we just repose our desires of attachment to the attachment of devotees, Saiva sadhu shukrito moksha dwaram apavritam, it will lead to liberation. How to identify who is a devotee? So Kapila Dev describes the secondary qualities of a devotee. Titikshava, Karunika, Surida Sarvadehina, Majata Shatrava Shanta, Sadhava Sadhu Bhushana. He is tolerant, merciful, compassionate, peaceful, no enemies. And then he gives the primary characteristic of a devotee. Mayananya bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham matkrite tyakta karmana tyakta swajana bandhava. My devotee, they are ananya bhavena bhakti kurvanti. They are doing unalloyed devotional service. They are not attached to their family. Mat krite tyakta karmana, they are ready to give up everything. They offer the results of all their activities to me. Tyakta swajana bandhava, they give up all their family members. How does this personality spend his day? दिन भर क्या करते हैं? मदाश्रया कथामृष्टा शृण्वन्ति कथयन्ति च तपन्ति विविधा तापा नैतान् मद्गत चेतसाम्. They spend their whole day discussing my pastimes. Mat ashraya katha. They are absorbed in my katha. And because of this absorption, they don't experience any material misery. Tapanti vividha tapa na. They don't experience. Now, the same thing is mentioned in the 10th canto. Every day, one demon was coming to Vrindavan. So much of disturbance. But all the Brajavasis, they never felt the distress. Why? Iti nandadayo gopa Krishna Rama katha muda kuruvanto ramamanascha na vindan bhavavedana. Because they were Krishna Ram katha muda. They were absorbed in Krishna katha, Ram Balaram katha. Na vindan bhavavedana. They were not experiencing any material distress. So these are the qualities of devotees. So therefore, O mother, O sadhavi, please take association of the devotees. Tayete sadhava sadhavi sarvasanga vivarjita. Please give up all other entanglement and take association of my devotee. Because when you associate with devotees, you will develop rati, you will develop ruchi. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavantirit karna rasayana katha tadjoshanadashu apavarga vartmani shraddharati bhaktiranu satam prasangan. When you hear in association of my devotees, my pastimes, mama virya samvido, what will happen? And when you allow that vibration to enter your ears, rit karna, joshanad, very quickly, if you engage in these discussions, ashu means quickly, what will happen? Shraddha, rati, bhakti. Rati means bhava, bhakti means prema. You will develop prema immediately. So after describing the glories of these devotees, and after describing the glories of devotional service, now Kapila Dev describes about the practices of jnana and ashtanga also. Because our devotee, he knows his path, but an expert devotee knows other paths also. One time Srila Prabhupada was in airplane with one devotee, and they were traveling. So Prabhupada said, so we have some time. So, you become atheist and I'll become a devotee and we'll debate. So he said, okay. So this person, this devotee, started presenting all the arguments which scientists they make. And Prabhupada, he dismantled all of them. And then Prabhupada said, okay, now I will become atheist, you become devotee. So this devotee said, okay, now I know all the arguments. And Prabhupada, he defeated him still. So therefore, Prabhupada said you should know the opponent's arguments so nicely that you should be able to defeat your own philosophy by his philosophy and again establish your philosophy. So Devotee, she wanted to hear the philosophy of Jnana and Yoga also. So after hearing about the excellence of Bhakti, Devotee, she asks further questions. She asks 3 more questions. So she says, okay, you have told about Bhakti. What type of Bhakti should I perform? What kind of Bhakti? Toi Uchita Bhakti, you have told Bhakti in 19th verse. What type of Bhakti should I perform? And please tell me something about Jnana and Yoga also. So that's how Devahuti, she presents few more questions. And in response to the second question of Devahuti, Lord Kapila, he describes the process of sadhana bhakti. Devanam gunalinganam anu shravika karmanam sattva evaika manaso vrittihi swabhaviki tuya animitta bhagavati bhakti siddhe gariyasi. So he says bhakti should be performed without material desires. Sattva evaika manaso. And In practice of devotional service, what you should do? Engage your senses in the service of the Lord. And that is what is sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means engaging our material senses in the service of the Lord. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida. So engaging the senses in the service of the Lord, and mind, should be dedicated in service of the Lord, and then one will attain liberation very easily. When one engages in the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, this bhakti quickly purifies the subtle body. Jarayati ashu yakosham nigirnam analoyatha. Just like blazing fire can consume any amount of fuel put into it, this fire of devotional service will purify and destroy the anarthas which is there in the subtle body. So bhakti is compared to fire, and bhakti is compared to digestive fire also sometimes. Why bhakti is compared to digestive fire? Because digestive fire very specifically destroys the unwanted things and absorbs the nutrients. Bhakti destroys the anarthas and increases our devotional sentiments. Devotional service sometimes take time to digest, just like the digestive fire. एक बार खाया तो you have to give some time to eat again. And if the digestive fire is good, one doesn't have to do anything else to digest the food. So by practice of devotional service, all the anarthas are automatically destroyed. So that is how Kapila Dev describes the power of devotional service. And then to inspire Devahuti more, he describes the characteristics of devotee who has attained raganuga level by who has attained bhava by Vaidhi sadhana and raganuga sadhana. And after describing this, he says, if you practice this, then you will be free from all the fear of the material world. If you just serve me. So Devahuti may ask, what about the devatas? If I serve you and the devatas become angry, so then what will happen? He says, Arey, these devatas are fearful of me. Madbhayad vati vatoyam suryas tapati madbhayad varshati indro dhati agni mrityuscharati madbhayat. Arey, out of my fear, this wind is blowing, sun is rising, Indra is showering rains, even death personified fears me. So don't worry about that. Please take shelter of my devotional service for perfection. And in this way, you will attain me. So practice Tivra Bhakti. Etavaneva lokesmin pumsaha nishreyasodaya. The highest perfection of all for all the living entity is to practice Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Intense devotional service is the only way to achieve the greatest benefit. So after this, in the 26th chapter, Kapila Dev, he describes Sankhya. So he answered the second question of Devahuti by describing Bhakti. Then he answers the third question of Devahuti by explaining the Jnana. So he describes the interaction between Jiva and Prakriti, and he describes the characteristics of Pradhana, time, and other elements. So he tells that, in this world, material world, Jiva, who is spiritual, but he gets bewildered because he starts identifying with this material world. He starts thinking that I am the doer of this material world. I am the doer of all these activities. I am the controller. And that's how he gets entangled. That is the cause of bondage in this material world. And this Jiva, living entity, he has a free choice, either to serve the senses or to serve the Lord. And Lord is always eager to bestow all the benedictions to this Jiva. After hearing the interaction, the description of the interaction between Jiva and Prakriti, Devotee asks a explanation of this. She tells, please tell me more about the description of Prakriti and Purusha. In response to this, in this entire chapter, Kapiladev, he describes the characteristics of Pradhana, Mahatattva, time, and all the elements which are created. Ahankar, Mana, Buddhi, senses, everything he describes in great detail. He describes the characteristics of all the elements and the sense objects and everything. And he describes how the gross things evolve from the subtle things. Sound gives rise to ether, ether gives rise to touch, touch gives rise to air, air gives rise to form, form gives rise to fire, fire gives rise to taste, taste gives rise to water, and then smell, and then earth. So all these things, detail he describes again. And then he says, he describes the Karan Srishti, Karya Srishti. And in the end of this chapter, he says, the goal of all this complex analysis is that one should focus his mind on the super soul. Then in the 27th chapter, Kapila, he describes the Jnana Yoga in little more detail. He says that living entity, he is actually liberated. He's pure. But because he starts identifying with the material nature, he starts getting bound. And that's why he has to transmigrate from one species to another. And that's what Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, Purusha Prakriti Stoi Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sango Asya Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu. Because of this attachment, because of his doership mentality. Ishwaro Aham, Aham Bhogi, I am the doer, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. Prakrite Kriyamanani Gune Karmani Sarvasha Ahankar Vimudhatma Karta Hamiti Manyate. He starts thinking, I am the doer. That is the cause of bondage. That's how he gets entangled in this material world. What is the solution? Solution remains the same, practice of devotional service. Ateva Shanaischittam Prasaktam Asatam Pathi Bhakti Yogena Tivrena Viraktya Cha Nayedvasham. By practice of Bhakti Yogena Tivrena, by intense devotional service, one can come out of this entanglement of material world. And then he describes the process by which one attains liberation following this jnana. So he describes the 18 qualities which a jnani should cultivate. Then he describes the characteristics of super soul. And after this, he says, if you want to understand soul and super soul, there are two examples he gives. He says, the sun in the sky, it is reflected in the water. And then the reflection falls on the wall. So a person who is seeing the reflection on the wall, he can understand, okay, it is getting reflected from the water. And there is something which is falling on the water. The light is falling on the water. So there is sun. That's how indirectly you can infer the presence of sun. Although you are not seeing the sun directly, you are seeing just a reflection on the wall. By that you can understand, oh, sun is there. Similarly, the pure soul, his quality is influenced by three modes, and all these modes, they work on false ego, and that false ego reflects on the senses, mind, and the body. So by the activities of the senses, mind, and body, we can understand the presence of the soul. After hearing all this, And then he tells one more thing. If you want to really understand the presence of soul, it can be done in two situations. When one is deep asleep, the jiva, he is forgetful of his covering of the mind and even intelligence and even ego in deep sleep. That is a state where you realize soul. You are self-realized in deep sleep, but it doesn't stay for long. Another time when one becomes self-realized is when another time one becomes self-realized is when the person when the destruction happens. There is a universal destruction. At that time, living entity is stripped of his subtle body and is stripped of the false ego also. So practically, when the jiva merges in the body of Mahavishnu, he is in a liberated state. But the desires are still kept as karma somewhere. He is miserable. The example is given of a wealthy man who is stripped of all his wealth. Because for a living entity who has contaminated desires, all the desires are his wealth which he has cultivated since millions of lifetimes. All these desires are kept where? In the mind, in the senses, in the intelligence, in the ego. So they are all stripped off. So the soul actually is liberated, but he is miserable. So the pure soul, how to understand that soul is there in the body? So he gives a nice example. Kapil Dev says, look, the soul, creates the influence. The soul is influenced by ahankar. Soul is covered by the false ego. And false ego manifests as the workings of the mind, workings of the body, workings of the senses. That's how everything is happening, because false ego is working. False ego is the boss. So when we see our mind working, when we see our senses working, we should understand that this is all coming from soul, because the soul is influenced by false ego, and false ego is directing the mind, false ego is directing the senses, and body is also working according to that. So if we go back, we can infer the presence of soul also. So after this, Devotee asked another question about liberation. You are telling so easily that one can get liberated, but liberation is not so easy, right? Because the combination is made for each other. Jiva is attracted to Prakriti and Prakriti is attracted to Jiva. The combination is perfect. So how can one get liberated? And even if one gets liberated, what is the fear? Again, he'll be bound. It is not so easy to get liberated. You have told just in few steps, few shlokas, you have told that soul can be liberated. It is not so easy. So Kapila Dev, he explains the process of liberation again. He says, yes, it is not so easy. Animittena nimittena swadharmena malatmana tivraya mai bhaktya cha shruta sambhritaya chiram jnanena drishta tattvena vairagyena baliyasa tapoyuktena yogena tivrena samadhina. All these things one has to do. Tivraya, intense bhakti, chiram, for a long time. It is not so easy. So first is tivraya bhaktya chiram. Long time we have to practice intense bhakti, animittena, nimittena, without any material desires. Shruta Sambhritaya, always hearing about my name, form, pastimes, being in perfect knowledge and renunciation, he will attain perfection. So the process of liberation is not so easy. We have to be really intense in our practices. Krishna Pada Padma Gandha Jai Jana Pai Brahma Loka Adi Sukha Tare Nahi Bhai. You know, it happens naturally. The more we get attracted to Krishna, the more we give up our attachment to this material world. Grame Grame Pat Chadi Jaye Bane Bane Kai Manovakye Chintye Chaitanya Charani. So Raghunath Das Goswami was running through forests because he wanted to attain the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There are no shortcuts in devotional service. Tivraya Bhaktya Chiram. Intense devotional service for a long time. And then Krishna says, Kapila Dev says, if somebody practices seriously, then he will, overcome the influence of material nature. And in that situation, this enlightened soul can never be troubled by material nature. He will be reinstated in his original constitutional position. He will shine in his own glory. And ultimately, one very sobering statement Kapila Dev tells, because he is telling about Jnana. He says, this yogi, he attains me after many, many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. So Krishna speaks just one verse in Bhagavad Gita. That one verse is explained in this chapter. To attain this, Bahunam janmanam ante happens. Vasudevam sarvamiti. It is not so easy for a yogi, for a jnani. It takes a long time. Then in the 28th chapter, Kapila Dev tells, okay, now I will answer your fourth question about Ashtanga Yoga. So it describes there are various, paths, various processes, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, and all that he describes. What is Yama, Niyama? He explains in detail from 2nd to 6th verse, following the duties, Swadharmana Acharana, then avoiding the duties which are not to be followed, then being satisfied, peaceful, and all that. Ultimately, by all these, by asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, ultimately one fixes his mind on the Supreme Lord. And then he describes in all these things, mind control happens by pranayam. And then by this pranayam, the body is purified, the mind is focused, so that one can meditate on the Supreme Lord by performing dharana. So dharana means general meditation on the form of the Lord. So which he is describing in beautiful verses. Prasanna vadanam bhojam padma garbharune kshanam nilotpala dala shyamam shanka chakra gadadharam. So beautiful form of the Lord is described here. Prasanna vadanam bhoja, beautiful smiling face. Nilotpala, dalashyamam, he has his body which is like a blue lotus. Shanka chakra gadadhara, and he is wearing lasat pankaja kinjalka peet kausheya vasasam Srivatsa vakshakam brajat kaustubha mukta kandharam. So all these beautiful verses are described by Kapila Dev, glorifying the beautiful form of the Lord. And then after this, he says, after this dharana is perfect, then he should meditate on each and every limb of the Lord, starting from the lotus feet. Sanchintayet bhagavatas charanaravindam vajrankushadhvaja saroruhalanchanadhyam uttungarakta vilasannaka chakravala jyotsna virahat mahadaritayandakaram. One should meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time, which is marked with Shankha, Vajra, Ankusha, Dhvaja, Saroruha, There is a effulgence which is coming from the toenails of the Lord, and that effulgence can destroy the darkness of ignorance which is there in the heart of each and every devotee. So therefore, please meditate on the lotus feet for a long time, because even Shiva is purified by the Ganga which is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. Yashaucha nisrit sarit pravarodakena tirthena murdnyadikritena Shiva Shivo bhut ध्यातुर्मनः शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रम् ध्याये चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्. There is a mountain of anarthas and sin which is there in the heart of each and every living entity. To destroy the mountain, only Vajra can work. So this Vajra is what? The lotus feet of the Lord. Then one should meditate on the calves of the Lord, where you will find Lakshmi Devi always engaged in massaging the lotus feet of the Lord and calves of the Lord. Meditate on that. Meditate on the lotus navel, which is a source of Brahmaji. Nabhi Radam Bhuvana Kosha. One should meditate on the chest, on the nipples, on the Kaustubha, which is there on the chest of the Lord. Meditate on the arms, which are the reservoir of all the power. Meditate on the garland of the Lord. And meditate on the Gada. That Gada is always marked with blood stains of the enemies. So that's how the Lord is always eager to protect his devotees. Kaumodakim bhagavato daitam smareta digdhamarati bhatashonita kardamena. Kaumudaki, meditate on that. Then one should meditate on the beautiful smile of the Lord, which is manifested only for the welfare of devotees. Only to attract all the devotees, Lord has manifested his beautiful smile. And then one should meditate on the smile of the Lord. That smile can destroy the ocean of tears which is created. Millions of lives we have cried so much that it has created an ocean. When we meditate on the smile of the Lord, that ocean of tears will be evaporated. And when we meditate on the eyebrows of the Lord, we can become free of the lust. Hasam Hare Ravanata Khila Loka Tivra Shoka Shrusagar Vishoshanamatyudaram Sammohanaya Rachitam Nijamaya Yasya Bhrumandalam Munikrite Makara Dvajasya. So in this way, a devotee should meditate on the smile and the laughter. In this way, by meditating on the each limb of the Lord, the yogi goes into ecstasy. But if this yogi is not so fortunate, unfortunate yogi, you know what he does? In spite of developing love of Lord, he withdraws his mind from this form of the Lord and focuses on Brahman. So then he continues, Kapila Dev continues to respond to the devotee's question of how a soul is bound and how it can be freed. And then in the 29th chapter, Kapila Dev now explains about the principle of devotional service, because devotee asks further questions. She asks, "Oh my Lord, please explain in detail the path of bhakti, because I understand that I have to follow this path of bhakti. I want to hear more about it. Please explain, because this is the ultimate of all the philosophical systems. And please describe about time also. Please describe about the process of birth and death of the jivas." She says, "You are Yoga Bhaskara." She glorifies Kapila Devi. You are Yoga Bhaskara. You are the sun of system of all the yogas. Please explain all this. So Kapila, he was pleased by his question, by the questions of his mother, and he explains the bhakti, which is in three modes. So he has already explained bhakti which is beyond the modes in 25th chapter, Devanam Gunalinganam Anushravika Karmanam. So now he is describing bhakti which is in three modes. So bhakti is not in three modes. The performer of the bhakti is in three modes. So a person who is in the mode of ignorance, when he practices devotional service, what are the intentions of that personality? He is envious, he is violent, he is proud. He takes shelter of bhakti to do harm to others. That is bhakti in the mode of ignorance. And he has no compassion. So this is Tamasik Bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, there are three types of Tamasik Bhakti. The lowest is the one who practices bhakti to destroy others. That is the lowest. A little higher than that is if somebody is practicing bhakti to cheat the Supreme Lord. And the highest in Tamoguna is if somebody worships the Lord in a competitive mood. If I'll worship the Lord, I'll become better. So that is Tamasic. And then a person who is in the mode of passion, he worships the Lord with a desire of material enjoyment, name, fame. So his separatist mentality is he wants everything other than the Lord. He is rendering devotional service, but he does not want anything. He doesn't want to please the Lord. A person in the mode of goodness, when he practices bhakti, his separatist mentality is he wants liberation. He wants to free himself of all the karmic activities, karmic reactions. That's why he's practicing bhakti. So this is in the mode of goodness. So then after describing this, Kapila Dev describes the qualities of pure bhakti, which is beyond the modes. And this section, forms the definition of pure devotional service. Madguna Shruti Matrena Mai Sarva Guhashaye Manogatiravichinna Yatha Gangam Bhasam Ambudau Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nirgunasya Hi Udaritam Ahetuki Avyavahita Ya Bhakti Purushottame Madguna Shruti Matrena. Just by hearing my transcendental pastimes, I am residing in everyone's heart. Mai Sarva Guhashaye. If somebody hears about my pastimes, Manogatir Avichinna, when the mind becomes at once attracted to me, just like Ganga flows towards the ocean, that is the pure devotional service. Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya, this unalloyed devotional service, it can be performed anywhere, anytime. Nothing and nobody can stop one from practicing this unalloyed devotional service. Ahetuki and avyavahita. Nothing, just like, river holds nothing back. River enters with its entirety into the ocean. And nothing can stop a river from entering into the ocean. Similarly, devotee holds nothing back. He gives everything, anya abhilashita shunyam, and nothing can stop a devotee. Ahetuki and apratihata. And devotees, they are so great, they don't want anything. They reject even liberation. Salokya, sarishti, samipya, sarupya, aikatvam apyuta, diyamanam na grihnanti vinamat sevanam jana. If there is no devotional service, devotees are not interested even in liberation. They are just interested in serving Krishna. Because service is the greatest opportunity. It is a treasure. It is a dhan which we have received, the service. Payayar agya dhan brajera vaishnavagan bando tara mukhya haridas Chaitanya Vilas Sindhu Kallo Lera Eka Bindu Tarakana Kahe Krishna Das. The Agya, the service, is a treasure of devotees. So devotee is not interested in anything else. So this bhakti is saeva bhakti yogakhya atyantika udarita yena ativrajya trigunan madbhavayopapadyate. So by this bhakti, one can surpass all the three modes of material nature. So now after this, Kapiladev, he explained that simply by hearing, one is attracted, but this stage is attained by lots of endeavor. And then in the next section from 15 to 18 verses, he explains the various things a devotee has to do to come to this state of pure devotional service. And after describing this, he says, such a purified personality whose mind is pure, not affected by material desires, he is always attracted to my name, form, and pastimes. Then Kapil Devi says, but if somebody offends devotees or if somebody offends living entities, his bhakti will come to an halt. So out of affection, Kapila Devi is scolding those devotees who don't respect other living beings. He says, anybody who disregards other living entities, he cannot respect me. Anybody who criticizes or hates other living entities, he cannot practice devotional service. So Krishna does not like to see faults in others. He is called as Adoshadarshi, and he wants everyone to be like that. When Putana came, he didn't see that she has come to kill me. He saw she has come to give me milk, and he gave her the highest liberation. So therefore he says, until one realizes my presence in each and every soul, in each and every body, he cannot serve me properly. So one should have equal vision. Developing equal vision does not mean that you embrace tiger also. There is a gradation of jiva. So in the next, from 28 to 36 verses, it describes the gradation of the jivas. And then after describing this, he says, I have concluded the explanation of bhakti and Ashtanga yoga. And then he describes the characteristics of time. Then in the 30th chapter, Kapila Dev, he answers the seventh question of Devahuti. Devahuti had asked about the movements of living entities, about the birth and death of living entities. So now in this 30th chapter, Kapila Dev, he describes the movements of living entities. He explains how a person goes through pains in the womb and then he takes birth. So he describes about the movements in the womb in the next chapter. In this chapter, he describes how a materialist person who lives his life in sinful ways, how he suffers. So it describes the life and death of a materialist. A materialist, he does not even realize that time is passing by so quickly. Prabhupada quotes this Chanakya, that even one moment of time cannot be retrieved back, even if somebody pays millions of dollars. And time destroys everything. Kalosmi lokakshay krit pravriddho, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Time destroys everything. Prabhupada writes, the history of mankind has seen big empires and emperors, merging into oblivion. Nobody knows what happened to them. And this personality who is trying to enjoy, he laments because he keeps accumulating temporary things, and then he realizes he cannot hold on to anything. His body is dwindling, his relationships, his family members, relatives, he's developed such great attachment, thinking that they will save me, they will protect me, but everything gets destroyed. Atmajaya sutagara pashudravin bandushu Niruda Mula Hridaya Atmanam Bahumanyate. He thinks, oh, these people will protect me. But he never gets satisfied. Every species of life thinks that I am getting certain amount of pleasure. Jantu vaibhavaye tasmin yam yam yonim manu brajet tasyam salabate nirvriti na virajyate. The amount of happiness one gets, he cannot give up. And we know the story of Indra becoming a pig, and Brahmaji came and said, "Oh Indra, come." He was thinking, "No, my wife has just given birth. How can I give up my children?" Everyone gets some happiness. Even if somebody gets a hellish body. Now, what is a pig? Hellish body. Narakasthopi deham vai na pumam tyaktumichati. He cannot give it up. Narakyam nirvirtau yasam deva maya vimohita, is bewildered by deva maya. He gets so much attached to his wife, children, relatives, property, everything, deeply rooted. And to fulfill their desires, to fulfill their demands, he does sinful activities. And he thinks, I am making my family members happy, but none of the family members are satisfied. His only impetus in family life is his association with women or opposite gender. And when the wife speaks sweet words in solitary place and embraces, that attracts and captivates the mind of this materialist. And he thinks, what is happiness? Happiness means I am very nicely counteracting problems. That's all. There is no actual happiness in family life. If there is no problems, that means I am happy. Griheshu kuta dharmeshu dukkha tantreshu tandritah kurvan dukh pratikaram sukhavan manyate grihi. If he can counteract the problems, he thinks sukhavan manyate, he thinks I am happy. And he tries to acquire more and more wealth, making his relatives happy, but it doesn't work. He works like a pet dog. Many times he's eating the remnants of his family members. And in due course of time, he becomes old. Now, like an old bull and ox, he cannot do anything. Everyone disrespects him. And then in this way, he lies down on his deathbed. His eyes bulging out, suffering pain. He wants to speak. He cannot speak. And all his relatives, they are making a show of lamentation. And he drowns himself in grief. And in this way, he dies a pathetic death, being dragged away by Yamdutas. At the time of death, Yamdutas come and they bind the subtle body and keep dragging him. And they give a yatana deha. He suffers a lot. He, on the way to Yamaloka, he's threatened by harsh words and he is bitten by dogs. He is whipped again and again. He feels hungry, thirsty, but there is nothing to drink. In this way, he is really lamenting. He falls down unconscious. Again, he is made to get up. Again, he is made to walk on the copper road, which is hot because there is fire burning beneath. In this way, he travels 99,000 yojanas within 3 muhurtas. And then as he reaches hell, he is made to, his flesh is burnt. He's made to eat his own flesh and he's made to eat others' flesh. He's tortured by animals. Vultures are taking out his abdomen and his intestines, and he is really suffering. His limbs are torn apart. He sees himself being cut into pieces, but still he doesn't die. And in this way, this personality who has lived his entire life in sinful way, he suffers a lot. And then such a person is sent to Andhata Mishra. After suffering in hellish situation, he again comes back and takes birth in the womb of a mother according to his karma. Karmana daiva netrena jantu dehopapattaye striya pravishta udaram pumsaha reta kanashrayah. Taking the shelter of the semen, he enters the womb of a particular mother, and there he suffers a lot. So Kapila Dev describes the entire development of the embryo in the womb of the mother, what happens from first night to seventh month. And then seventh month, the child becomes conscious. And in that situation, lying down in the womb, which is a very small place, he suffers a lot. When the mother eats something bitter or pungent, the child also suffers. And in this way, he is not able to move also. He's really suffering. He's not able to, he's not free. But if somebody is a fortunate child, he remembers his past 100 births. Now, he remembers his 100 births. And how can one be peaceful if somebody remembers his 100 births? All the births, not just human, animal births, and all the species. So all these, when we hear all this from scriptures, one should make a determination. One should know, I don't want to enter the womb of another mother again. So when he gets consciousness at seventh month, some fortunate child who was a devotee in the past life, he remembers all these things. And he offers prayers to the Supreme Lord. So he offers his prayer. So my Lord, I take your shelter somehow by my own foolish activities. I have entered this womb, suffering the threefold of miseries. Please take me out of this place. You are the closest. You know my sufferings. So in this way, he prays to the Lord. And then the Lord says, okay, you choose my bhakti and you will be liberated. So then Lord says, okay, now you have requested me, so I'll take you out of the womb. So this child in the womb, he has actually become really a self-realized soul. He says, oh my Lord, I don't want to get out of this place, because if I get out to the material world, if I go into the material world, I'll be again bound by material energy. That's what Shukadeva Goswami was fearing. That's why he was not coming out of the womb. So in this way, all this jiva is praying. So the Lord says, okay, what have you decided? So this jiva says, I'll stay here only. So in this way, Lord, this jiva is praying. Then after 10 months, he's pushed down by the airs, and he takes birth. As soon as he takes birth, he again gets entangled in the material world. Bhuliya tomare samsare asiya pe nana vidha vyatha. This is a beautiful bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Janani jathare chilama japona vishama bandhana pashe ekbar prabhu dekha diya more. Oh my Lord, please take me out of this condition once. I will only do your bhajan. But as soon as that living entity comes out, dekho na bhavinu janama paiya karibo bhajana tava. I will do only bhakti. But what happens? Janama hoilo padi maya jale. Again gets entangled. And he goes from infancy to boyhood to adult, young age. And then if he gets entangled into bad association again, he again enters the hell. Because in a bad association, he develops all the bad qualities. What is bad association? Any association which takes one away from self-realization. One should be very, very careful in associating with opposite gender, because there is no attachment which is as powerful as association with opposite gender. No one is immune in this world. anyone in this world will be attracted to a woman. Tatsrishta srishta srishteshu kon akhandita dhipuman rishim narayanam rite yoshin mayeh mayaya. Very strongly, Kapila Dev is telling to his own mother. He is telling, among all the living entities begotten by Brahma, no one is immune to the attraction of Maya in the form of a woman. No one. And then he says, don't think that only woman is Maya. For a man, woman is Maya, and for women, man is Maya. So it acts both ways. So then he explains what is birth and death. And then in this 32nd chapter, he describes that attached worker can't get liberation. And therefore, we have to work in a detached way. Then only one can get liberated. And in this way, Kapila Dev criticizes a person who is working with a fruitive mentality. And he explains that only by practice of devotional service, one can get out of this material entanglement. And he explains a little bit of jnana. And ultimately, he describes various paths to realize Bhagwan. After hearing all these instructions, Devotee, she becomes pacified and she offers beautiful prayers to the Supreme Lord Kapila. She says, actually, it is so very astonishing that Supreme Lord, you are the Supreme Lord and you are appearing in the womb of an insignificant lady like me. This is really bewildering me. And she is remembering this incarnation of the Lord as a small baby, Vatapatra Shai, sucking on his own toe at the time of annihilation. So she says, you appear only to destroy all the sinful activities, sinful people, and to establish dharma. And the most powerful incarnation you take is the holy name. Yannamadeya Shravananu Kirtanat Yat Prahvanad Yat Shravanadapi Kvachit Swadopi Sadhya Shavanaya Kalpate Kunaputa Punaste Bhagavannu Darshanat. Just by taking your names, even a Chandala who has taken birth in the family of dog eaters, he can also become purified. Swadopi Sadhya Savanaya Kalpate. He becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. What to speak of if somebody gets your darshan, oh my Lord? I am so fortunate. Anybody who is born even in the family of dog eaters, if he keeps chanting the names of the Lord, he is more elevated than Brahmana. Aho Batshwapachoto Gariyan Yajjihvagre Vartate Nama Tubhyam Te Putapah Te Juhuvo Shashnurarya Brahman Churanama Gananti Yete. So therefore she offers her obeisances to the Supreme Lord. And Lord, he gives her his final instructions to Devotee. He tells, just follow this path, easy path of bhakti, as I have instructed you, and very soon you will be liberated. And therefore, in this way, he gave her fearlessness and he departed. Then Maitreya Muni, he describes the opulence which was there in the palace created by Karda Muni. And Devotee, although she continued to stay there, but she was completely detached. She was not having any attachment for any of the royalty and opulence of the palace. So she continued to meditate on her son Kapila, followed her instructions, and achieved perfection in life. So after this, the activities of Kapila Dev is described in the end. Kapila Dev, he went to in the direction of Ganga Sagar, and there he is still staying at a place called Siddhapad. Sorry, still staying at Ganga Sagar. So Devotee attained perfection at Siddhapad. So there Kapila Dev is staying and following and spreading the principles of Sankhya philosophy. So the Falashruti of this is this description of Kapila Samvad, Devahoti Samvad, it is the purest of all the descriptions, and one who hears, reads, and explains this knowledge he'll become a devotee and attain the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is the end of this canto. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you for your patient listening. So anybody has any questions?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you so much. Very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So when are we beginning the next canto?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.